how to eliminate the #1 killer in your kitchen, and you may be surprised to find out what it is. If we look at what caused diabetes and obesity, as we have done in prior videos, we see that obesity and diabetes have gone up tremendously, but yet in 1997, our sugar consumption started to go down, but what continued to increase? Our use of seed oils and vegetable oils. Seed oils contain something called linoleic acid. We'll refer to it as LA. And we know that excess consumption of LA, which is an omega-6 polyunsaturated fat, acts like a metabolic poison when consumed in excess. And I got bad news for you. We are tremendously over-consuming LA. So what foods do you want to eliminate to lower your LA? #1 would be seed oils and vegetable oils that are frequently used in cooking. Processed foods can be 50% of these bad fats. Restaurant foods are loaded with LA. And animals raised on grains, such as conventionally raised chicken and pork, would have more LA. And here's the bad news. Most olive oils and avocado oils have LA in them. So I want you to avoid seed oils that are very high in LA, including soybean oil, cottonseed oil, safflower, canola, corn, and sunflower. If you look at safflower oil, it is 70% of these bad fats. The better ones to use would include quality olive oil, avocado oil, coconut oil, and grass-fed butter. They rank down here at the bottom where we want to be. The vast majority of avocado and olive oils are adulterated with other oils. Anywhere from 60 to 90% of the olive oils sold in stores in America are adulterated with cheap omega-6 vegetable oils like sunflower, peanut, and non-human grade olive oil. So how do you know if your olive oil is a good one? I'm going to give you a couple little tips, but be sure and look for my video on selecting olive oils. 2 tests that are very easy to do are the refrigerator test. You put your olive oil in the refrigerator and what should happen? It should get hard. It should get solid. It should not pour out of the bottle. Now, if it's semi-liquid and it pours out, part of it pours out, you can guarantee you've got some bad oils in there. And the other thing is a taste. A good olive oil should have a little bit of a peppery taste in the back of your throat within a few seconds of putting it in your mouth. If you want to read labels, I would use certified olive oil. So the California Olive Oil Council has a certification program where they check oils out. So here's the list of some good ones. I'll have a more comprehensive list in my next video. And what about nuts? Well, nuts are very good for you. They help your heart, they help weight loss, they help you live longer. But some nuts do contain quite a bit of LA. So we need to just not overconsume the nuts. And if you're following the 7 Systems plan, you'll know that we have the healthiest nuts listed there, and also you are supposed to eat a small handful. The best nuts would include nuts and seeds, flax and chia seeds, almonds, hazelnuts, pistachios, cashews, and macadamia. And again, they're down here low in linoleic acid, whereas some of the nuts are higher. Now, walnuts, you'll notice, are higher. That doesn't mean you shouldn't have walnuts, but it just means you shouldn't have walnuts every day. Let's move on and talk about meat. I want you to use low LA meat. So seed and vegetable oils are the primary source, but animal products can be loaded with this harmful fat. Now, fortunately, some animals are ruminant animals. What's that mean? It means they have a multi-compartment stomach. So they eat the food and then they frequently belch it up and chew on it some more. And they have bacteria in these multiple stomachs that is actually able to convert bad LA fat into healthier saturated and monosaturated fats. So if you look at the difference between grass-fed meat and corn-fed meat, the difference in LA is really not significant. Only 0.5% difference. Now there's some other things you need to consider, but if you're just looking at LA, there's not a lot of difference between grass-fed and conventionally fed beef. However, when you have conventionally raised beef, frequently there are antibiotics and herbicides and all kinds of other things that they are exposed to that are not good for you. So always try to go with the grass-fed meat. And what about poultry and pork? Well, unfortunately, they do not have multiple stomachs. So what they eat is what goes into their meat. Chicken, turkey, pigs, they can't make that conversion. So when they are fed a high grain diet, corn or soy, their meat becomes filled with this LA. In fact, most poultry and pork have over 25% LA, extremely high. And a lot of people eat poultry thinking it's a healthier meat. I will mention one thing you can do to decrease that somewhat is to remove the skin, which would contain a fair amount of the LA. So what about eggs? They come from poultry. Well, fortunately, they are acceptable because each egg has less than 1 gram of LA, and that is even if it is fed commercial feeds, like in these big places. But always try to get healthier eggs. This is free range. All right, there's not much free range in there, but that's what it is. Cage-free, free range, not much different than what's the other option, but pasture-raised chickens. Now they're running in the pasture, they're eating bugs, they're eating grass, much better. So let me review the meats. If you look at the omega-6, now LA is part of the omega-6 family. We don't want too much omega-6. In fact, the ideal ratio of 6 to 3 would be a 2-to-1 ratio. We got 6 omega-6s in our diet, 2 omega-6s in our diet, 1 omega-3, a 2-to-1 ratio. Well, if you look at pork, it is 23 to 1. Way too much omega-6. And too much omega-6 is inflammatory and causes problems by itself. If you look at chicken, now we're about 14 to 1. Ground beef, significantly less than chicken, 9 to 1. And then we've got lamb, which is better yet, and we get down to the best of the best, which is fish. And even farm-raised fish is pretty low in omega-6, but tremendously better is the wild-caught fish. If you have ever looked at a farm that raises fish, it would look something like this. And you'll see these boats driving by and throwing buckets of grain into the pens for these fish to eat. And that is not a natural diet for fish. They don't normally eat this much. And it changes the omega-3, omega-6 ratio. It puts a lot more omega-6 in them. Farm salmon has only half the omega-3 as wild-caught salmon, 1/4 the vitamin D, while having more than 5 times more omega-6. And farm salmon also is frequently contaminated with antibiotics and pesticides. So I want to encourage you to radically reduce your LA exposure, these seeds and seed oils. And here's how you do that. Severely limit processed seed and vegetable oils. Get them out of your house. Pork and poultry, I'm not saying don't use these things, but they should not be your primary meat source. Processed foods, you know, are bad for you. They can have 50% LA in them. Restaurant meals frequently are loaded with omega-6 and LA fats. Cut them way down. And what I want you to do is use wild-caught fish. Use beef, but if you can get it grass-fed, it's absolutely better. And use a quality olive oil, avocado oil, and coconut oil. Eggs are great, and if you can get free range, absolutely the best. And continue to eat nuts, but just use a small handful every day.